live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Sober Swole podcast. My name is Jake Howard, and Paul Rowe is not here with us this evening. So before we get started, I'd like to give a shout out to Royalty Nutrition. That's royaltynutrition.com. And to help me out with that, as always, here's Warhorse.
Hey, it's Warhorse. Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay. If you want second place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.
That's right, Royalty Nutrition. It is a veteran-owned and operated supplement company that does not cheap out on their ingredients when they're making their supplementations, and there's no fake promises involved. Check them out and use their great products to help you along your way to reach your fitness goals. Use the discount code 37HAKE to save you 15% on your entire order. As we get going, give a shout out to Gorilla Gains. That's www.gorilla-gains with the Z.com. You can follow them on Instagram at Gorilla Gains 15. Check them out. They're an all-purpose apparel company that you can wear in and out of the gym comfortably, and they also make great equipment to help keep you safe while you train. That's Gorilla-Gains with the Z.com. Use the discount code Jake15 to save you 15% on your entire order. One final shout out. Oh, nope, I got two shout outs. Pardon me. Another shout out. We'll give a shout out to the FitOps Foundation. That's www.fitops.org. They are a not-for-profit organization that helps veterans rediscover their purpose after their active duty military training through friendship, camaraderie, learning life coping skills, and becoming highly qualified personal trainers and earning the title Certified Veteran Fitness Operative. If you're looking for a great not-for-profit to donate to, that's www.fitops.org/donate. Also, I'm going to give a shout out to Buy Studios and the Grand Chameleon Ryan Harvey. We would not be able to have this show without him and his awesome Buy Studios, which is in the process of moving to its new location, which has been redacted. Check them out on Instagram and Twitch at Buy Studios, all one word. Tonight, our guest is a Libertarian. He is also a sober warrior. He hosts the Clean Libertarian podcast. You can follow him on Twitter at LibertyDrew84 and follow his podcast at Clean_podcast, also on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, here's Drew.
Hey, thanks a lot, Jake. I appreciate you inviting me on, man. And I got to say, I think I'm going to buy some of those supplements now. That it was rocking out. That was awesome.
Right. I told David, I was like, hey, man, I know this great independent pro wrestler. I think I can get him to, if we just send him a box of our stuff, I think we can get him to make a promo video for us. And he's like, yeah, man, whatever. So we've been using that as part of our intro. Yeah, he's awesome. You can follow him. He's JP Warhorse on Twitter. He's pretty rad.
Okay.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, Drew. Like how did you ended up becoming what led you to where you are now? How's that?
Okay. So I'll give you the rundown of the story. So it starts out like I was the most awkward kid on the planet, I'm pretty sure, right? So like and let's just set the stage accurately. So my mom was like a prom queen, and dad was a football jock. They fell in love, romantic, all that, had a baby, and they thought their son would grow up to be one of those things. Well, come to find out, I was just like, I had a problem keeping weight off when I was a kid. I was just a perpetually chubby kid. And I tried sports, and something about being a fat guy in sports just doesn't mix. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough, man. It's hard. Yeah. So like I tried all the sports. That wasn't going to work for me. Tried skateboarding because, Tony Hawk was all the rage when I was a kid, and broke both my wrists multiple times. I still can't do an ollie, Jake. That's how bad it is. Like, so. Skateboarding wasn't going to work for me. I did like Star Wars, right? So, and I still do. I love Star Wars. I'm a huge Star Wars nerd, but like back then it wasn't cool. Like now we have that geek chic and it's kind of like, okay, you know, but back then it was not that, dude. You were a nerd. You got wedgies and, you know, swirlies in the bathroom for that. But when the Phantom Menace came out, there used to be this chain of entertainment stores. They sold like games and DVDs and books. It was called Hastings. And so like Hastings was doing this promotional thing. They're like, you know, dress up as your favorite Star Wars character. And, you know, you'll meet other people up here doing the same thing. And we're going to give away like door prizes and stuff like that. So in my mind, I'm like, this is where my friends are, you know, like this is my like rocket into the social stratosphere. Right. So lacking a Jedi outfit, I have like this like bathrobe that I got with some cologne box set for Christmas. I put this on. Yeah. I get a coat hanger. I straighten it out and put some cardboard and paint it blue. And I'm like the most ghetto looking Luke Skywalker you've ever seen in your life. And I'm like, Mom, take me to Hastings. My friends are waiting. Right. So we get up there and I'm the only person dressed up, man. I'm the only one. Like I still have a huge resentment from that. And on top of that, they weren't even giving away free stuff. It was like a 10% off coupon. It was so lame. So all that to say is that like my childhood and subsequent like early teen years can be subscribed as just like one social blunder after the next. I never quite fit in where I stood. And that seems to be kind of the narrative for my life. That seems to be kind of the thing that drives a lot of the decisions I've made. Never feeling comfortable in my own skin. Well, around this time, this was like the Johnny B. Good med days. You know, this is like when Ritalin and Adderall were first really starting to ramp up and get prescribed. And I remember getting on this one pill called Dexedrine. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I haven't heard of that one. No.
It's potent, very potent. I mean, it is like, wow, you know.
Brings the heat, huh?
Yeah, brings the heat for sure. But I remember taking this pill when I was a kid. And I think that this is kind of where the idea got grafted in my mind that I could take an external substance to fix an internal problem, right? Like, I finally felt like I could talk to girls at school. Now I would go talk to them and they weren't wanting to hear what I had to say, but it didn't stop me, you know, like I didn't stutter, like it was great. But you know, and anyway, so it just kind of, things got a little bit better for me. I kind of got a little bit better at school, but then it just fell off a cliff, you know, and man, fast forward to when I'm 18, I get out of the house as quickly as I can, get away from my like parents, you know, because they're trying to hold me down, whatever. And I had to find what I found on the streets, you know, because obviously that prescription didn't come with me. And man, it started out like, and I talk about this a lot on my podcast about how the DARE program at school will put like pot on the same level as heroin. And I remember smoking weed for the first time being like, this isn't bad. And, you know, I just automatically assumed that's what, you know, that they were lying about all the other substances as well. And they were not, you know, like some of them they were kind of accurate about. But anyway, like when I moved out and I was 18, like, dude, I just ran wild, partying constantly. I lived in this little studio apartment with like 15 other kids my age. And it was just like a little punk house, man. We would all go out and run our various hustles throughout the day. And then at night we would come back and, you know, have our dope or whatever. And those times were fun, you know? And I think that's kind of when we hear people talk about their recovery and talk about where they were at, like it's almost like they stay in this doom and gloom spot for a long time. But like for me, like I can vividly remember when it was fun, but I cannot accurately pinpoint when it stopped being fun and it started being a chore, right? Like continuing on and doing that thing, like having to get loaded just to feel like I could function as a human being. And, you know, years pass, friends come, friends go, girlfriends or, hostages. They come and they go. But this one particular hostage, we kind of stuck it out for a while, and she ended up getting pregnant. And
Ooh.
when my daughter was born, here's just to set the theme of that night. Like when her water broke, I just done a decent sized shot of heroin and had been drinking most of the night. And so here I am, like smacked out of my head, and I'm driving my pregnant wife to the hospital because I'm not calling 911, and we get there, and it was a very sobering experience. I mean, watching the childbirth, watching my daughter like come into the world, and she had her eyes open pretty much instantly, man. And I remember holding her, and she's just looking up at me. And I think in my mind, I'm like, you know what? I finally have a reason to get clean, like, and the other part of it was I always had a lot of really good intentions, but I never could quite pull it off. But I felt like anything that had the capability of being good inside of me was passed on to this little girl. And so it's like, I had this like huge shot of hope, and I'm like, finally, like, this is it. I'm going to start growing up. And, man, fast forward 2 years, and I'm in the dope house, and this little girl comes walking into the room with one of my needles in her hand. And it was like, wow, it was one of those moments that you can't deny that anymore. Like us addicts were really good about, really justifying some of our behaviors and being able to kind of like, minimize and dismiss, but there was no minimizing that. There's the most beautiful and perfect thing in my entire world holding the epitome of my shame. And, man, it was like a couple of days later, and my mom had showed up with a temporary custody order from a judge. See, that's what happens when you have family that actually cares and you stop showing up, I wasn't coming around. I wasn't answering the phone. I wasn't showing up for holidays. And it was just a matter of time. And I had played this scenario out of my head time and time again about what I would do if she came around. I'd be like, you're not taking my kid, but man, I had no fight left in me. I knew it was the right move. And so I let her take her, and I went back inside the dope house. And I remember everybody around me saying like, dude, you screwed up. Like, addicts like us don't get clean. You're never going to see her again. And I believed it, and I spent another year out there, man. And it got to the point to where like, even my dope dealers were like, dude, you need to go to detox. Like it was a problem. Like they were like, dude, you're freaking us out. Like you need to go get some help. And like, I was like, maybe they're right. So I went to detox. One time wasn't enough, man. I needed to really get that treatment in there. So I went like 6 times, like trying to get it. But while I was in there, the H&I meetings would come through, and H&I stands for hospitals and institutions. And they would, every time one of these groups of people came in, they would talk to me about who they were and where they came from. And I could identify, like, it didn't matter their age, their gender, their skin tone. Like it didn't matter. Like I was identifying with all of them. But then they started talking about this other thing that I had no idea of. And that was hope, that was hope. They talked about a life worth living. I distinctly remember one guy came in and he was talking about these scuba diving trips he takes every year with his buddies and his wife. And he just describes going to these like really remote beaches all around the world. And like, he's not a rich guy. He learned how to save money and do those things. And like, it just blew my mind, right? Like, it was just like, wow, we can do that. Like, that's possible for people like us. And, there's a lot of things that happened in between those early days and the point where I finally got clean. But I'm just really grateful that, because see, a lot of people come in, they find 12-step recovery or whatever the case may be, and they get it and they hold on to it and that's it. I'm not that guy. Like I am that guy who picked up so many 24-hour coins that people stopped clapping when I got them. Like I am that guy that people completely gave up on. They did not take anything I said as sincere. And there was a handful of those cats that were around at that time who refused to give up on me, who always talked to me like I was a human and not a burden. When they asked me how I was doing, I could tell that they cared. And when the time came, man, I knew who to reach out to. And I don't know, man, it's hard to define what that was like, what that meant, but it's like when you're ready to hear what you need to hear, you hear it. And it's a beautiful thing, man. I was spoon-fed the very basics of recovery in a manner that I could handle it and understand it. And little by little, man, I started getting my life back together. You know, I was on the run, right? I had 30 days clean and I was on the run from the law. I had a warrant out for my arrest and I was sincerely under the belief that they would just forget my file. Like if I'd stayed gone long enough, like, you know, they get new court clerks all the time, man. They're, you know, somebody's going to mess up something, but,
it's not the first time I've heard something like that, man. It's like, it'll fall through the cracks. It'll fall. It's all right.
Right. Like
I wish Paul was here, my co-host. He'd be like, oh,
get that, you know, like, I don't know what it is that makes us geniuses, you know, when we're out there, but we're convinced, man, that like everybody else is dumb. But one of the guys who was working with me, you know, working through the steps, he said, you know, we work an honest program here. And it doesn't matter if they lose your file or not. Like you made a mistake and you need to face that mistake or else this is going to haunt you. It doesn't matter what it does to the state. It matters what it does to you. And so I had 30 days clean and I went to county jail knowing I was going to get locked up. And I damn sure did get locked up, you know? Yeah. But I got out on a pretty decent deal, spent 4 months in county and got out on probation. And ever since then, I have stayed on this side of the law. That was back in 2012. It's hard to describe like what I was taught because, man, like I was so far gone, I forgot how to bathe properly. Like I didn't know how to pay my bills. I had no idea how to function as a human being. So, I mean, when I say that I was taught the basics, like I was taught the basics, you know? But, yeah, dude, I went from living behind a Walmart to this house I'm sitting in now. I paid for this by myself, no help from anybody, you know, without a college degree. Yeah. Yeah. It's awesome. But that's the quick rundown. that's my H&I spiel. So there it is, man. Oh, and I have my daughter back nowadays too. She's actually in the other room right now. Thank you.
Nice, man. No, that's good. I mean, it sucks that kind of stuff has like happen, right? But it's always kind of good to hear the redemption. You know, I think part of what we try and do here is let folks know that, yeah, it's bad. It may get worse, but it doesn't have to. You know, you can find your way to bring yourself back into the upswing. You know, get your shit together and get clean, get a job, maybe get your family back. You know, it's possible. It's just, you got to work just as hard at it as you did to, you know, find what you were looking for on the street too.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the thing you kind of touched on the point too, is that maybe get the family back. Like, I'm glad that it didn't work out, you know, because I have a beautiful wife. She is my soulmate. But like when I first got clean, I was convinced that me and my daughter's mom were going to get back together, you know, and like,
right.
That was kind of like a, what do they call that? A reservation I had in my program, is that like, if this doesn't happen, then I'm not staying clean. And thank God I was around some people who could call me out on that, you know, but man, we get clean for us. We get sober for us. That way we can be better for those around us that we love, you know?
Well, it's like the most selfish thing you can do. That's get better for everybody. Right. It's
right.
Well, when you're actually in active addiction, you're also being a selfish asshole, but in a whole different avenue. But it's like, okay, here I've been fucking around for, however long it was, since I need to unfuck around for probably twice, if not 3 times the time.
Right.
I was, I made a joke. I made a joke on Twitter today. My wife went to a dentist appointment and left me, with our a month old and our 1.5-year-old. And they were both like, they were either crying in unison or one was crying and one was not, just like pretty much the whole time she was gone. And I was like, good God, whiskey sounds great, But,
right.
I'm at the point now where that's I can make a joke like that and then not be like, that's a good idea, you should probably act on it. There's times where it, like, you'd make back when I was first getting into things, there was so many times where I just wanted to be like, fuck it. I can go right now. I know where there's Coke. I can go get some. And I can always go to a store and get my bottle of choice in a 30 rack and see what the hell happens, And then I don't know, for me personally, as time's progressed, I still have those urges, but I don't have the extreme desire to act on them like I used to. Do you find that as well with you?
Yeah. Yeah. I think also is that, like, I've gotten really good about remembering my last high, like I remember how bad it was. And so, not to get into, because I know that this podcast, you're not affiliated, with any fellowship or whatever, but, just part of history, AA's history is, Dr. Bob, he died having obsessions. Like, that man, every single day on this side of the 12 steps for him, he had that obsession to drink. He just chose not to act on it. So I think it's kind of this thing, man, where it's like, we learn how to not fixate on that obsession when it comes, right? Is that what, like, do you identify with that?
Yeah, it's kind of like passing glimpses.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, so I quit doing Coke pretty much no problem. I woke up one morning and I was like, I want cocaine for breakfast. And I was like, you are never doing that again. and this was, awesome. This was after a solid, like, 2 years of at least every weekend. Oh, right. Speaking of dare, I did get offered drugs by a random man in a bathroom at a Tilted Kilt, Tempe, Arizona. Yeah, I walked in to go take a leak, and he's like, "You want some of this?" And I was like, "Absolutely, sir."
Yes. Yes. Free candy?
So take
what? Yes.
Take that, you lying fuck. But and then when it came to like I tried to kill myself when I was drinking, still just drinking, but then that didn't even stop me. But then it got to the point where, like, I don't like this. You're such a, it was either I was the life of the party that, like, went home upset because I went home alone anyway, or I was just the immediately sobbing wuss boy in a corner somewhere. And I was living in South Texas at the time, and that's not a good look, So
no, it's not.
My last alcoholic beverage I ever had, I didn't even finish. It was a Not Your Father's root beer. And those are gross. Yeah. So
pretty fucking haggard.
Yeah. So I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to do this anymore. And that was, I've been blessed in that sense. I've never worked a program. I've never felt the need to. I've gone to some AA meetings with my co-host Paul, and I can see where they're definitely beneficial and helpful. So you'll never hear me talk down on it or tell you not to talk about it either.
Right.
So if it's something that you need to do to work on you and be better for you, hell yeah, man, go do it. Like if doing tantric yoga with yourself helps you stay clean, then more power to you, brother. You know.
Absolutely.
So
Well, here's the thing too, is that like we're so this whole idea of because let's be honest, man, addiction and alcoholism, that is a mental illness. That is the thing in between our ears that's telling us to railroad everything constantly, you know? And so as far as humanity, the timeline of humanity is concerned, we are still in the golden age of figuring out this funny little thing between our ears, you know? And so I get for a time where, you know, it was so bleak that, you know, people said AA is the only way or NA or whatever. But we're learning now is that there's a lot of different ways into recovery. You know, there's no uniform path for anybody. I don't care who it is, you know, and so it's a good thing. It's a blessing for people who are coming into this fold because, man, we're never going to cure addiction completely. Not going to happen. Addicts and alcoholics, unfortunately, are still going to be created in their own ways. And how great it is that we have a society that is getting increasingly more open-minded to the prospect of those people seeking recovery. And we're finding new avenues to do it as well. So I think it's awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's one of the good things about people joining together and lobbying for the legalization of, you know, like marijuana and shrooms too. Things from the ground, if used right, can help you. I mean, I'm not saying everyone should go out and grow poppy in their backyard and see what the fuck happens, but I'll never advocate for that. But
no,
you know, I mean, there's the conversations are needing to be happen, and it's kind of a Western twist on some Eastern medicine, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. There's this doctor out right now, and I'm trying to get him on my podcast. He's very learned and prestigious, right? And here lately, he's been talking about how heroin helps him balance his life between his home life and his professional life. And at face value, that sounds like such an audacious claim to make. It doesn't make any sense. Like you hear that, and especially for those of us who've come from that kind of background, we're like, what the hell? But the man's making some solid points. And really, for me personally, like at the end of the day, my stance will be, you should be able to do recreational heroin, but you probably shouldn't do recreational heroin, right? Like that's that defining line. That's that's where I sit on it, you know? Yeah, I don't want to get off on a tangent, Jay.
You're fine. We, for those who don't know, I am a libertarian, small L. I'm not, I refuse to be a party affiliate. But how I found you was one of those like Liberty Twitter follow trains kind of thing. And I was like, this guy's talking about stuff that I talk about, you know? But when it comes to, and I'll agree with you, I don't think people should have a choice of what they do in the comfort of their own homes. If you are affecting the rights of other people with what you are doing in the comfort of your own home, that's where the line is being drawn. And that's as far as I'm going to get into that too. So
right on. Sorry, I wasn't trying to use your episode as a soapbox, man. I got plenty of space over in my own realm to do that.
Well, I listened to your roundtable with like three other dudes talking about ending the war on drugs. And I mean, obviously I completely agree with you. I think the war on drugs has made more criminals and ruined more lives than it's helped. I mean, you've got people still to this day who are doing life sentences over marijuana, man. That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous. And it's not even like, in some of these people, it wasn't even like intent to sell. kind of thing. So it was just like what they had at their house that was theirs. It was like, nope, you've been smoking weed your whole life, to prison with you.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a guy.
Like,
There's a guy down there in your neck of the woods. It just happened. Let me see if I can't find that. But he just got sentenced to life in prison for simple possession of methamphetamine because of a 3-strike law. I think it was 12 grams of meth, and that's his life gone. But here's the thing. No matter how you feel about these substances, let's keep that out of our mind. Continuing to criminalize addiction only perpetuates the stigma that is associated with drug addicts. So labeling a drug addict as a felon and having this negative connotation on it, you're only keeping those people exactly where they're at. You're not prompting them to come into the realm of functioning society, so to speak, right? So this only serves to continue the problem of addiction and compound it and exacerbate the issue so much more than if we would take a societal approach. And that only starts whenever we change our laws. And I don't know, man, it's hard to relay that information to somebody who has lost a loved one to a drug overdose. It's hard.
Yep.
You know,
we had a returning guest. She actually, we had her on before she went to prison and after. And she had a DUI, but the problem with it was she wrecked into somebody and hurt a couple people. So so she went and did her time for that. So when it comes to treating the addiction, obviously I think the laws need to change, but the biggest hiccup in it I see happening is if we go to the societal approach. And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying the biggest hiccup I see in it is because there are so many ways to treat an addiction, on top of the addict themselves needs to realize that, oh no, this is messing my life up. I don't know what the happy balance would be. Do you have an idea of what that would look like?
The only thing that I know is that you can't force recovery. Right. You can't force recovery at all. Unfortunately, that's the one thing that you can't force. It takes the alcoholic or the addict to reach that rock bottom, as cliche as it sounds. You found yours, drinking that nasty ass root beer. I found mine, doing what I did. But we found our respective bottoms. And I don't know what your past was like. I'm looking forward to hearing your story coming up on my show. But I can tell you for me, there was plenty of run-ins with law enforcement and plenty of sit downs with drug counselors and the like. And none of it ever stuck, none of it ever stuck to me. But once I hit that rock bottom, and for real hit that rock bottom, it's like I was ready, and all of a sudden I could hear. And so I don't know how you replicate that. I don't know if you can. I don't know if you can manufacture something like that for somebody.
Well, because it's been seen repeatedly, and even with your own story, you went to detox how many times before you're like, yeah, yeah. I cleaned out. That means it's going to hit me better when I get out of here.
Exactly.
It's the road goes on forever and the party never ends, but until it does.
Yeah, I've been to 20 inpatient facilities. Like, I am a chronic retread, man. Like, it took a lot. It took a lot.
Yeah, man. So how long has this been officially? I'm sorry, I forgot the year you told me you got clean.
You're good. I had originally gotten clean in 2012. I had a slip a year ago. And so my official clean date now is January 8th, 2020. So
okay.
Going strong, doing good again, but yeah, things
well,
happen,
did you slip?
Man.
Did you slip back into the other stuff, or was it something different?
I slipped alcohol, man. alcohol and prescription pills that I was prescribed at the time. The thing is that like that thing in my head doesn't discriminate, like my drug of
Right.
choice has always been more, and it'll always be more. It doesn't matter what form that is. I'm just fortunate enough that when I had this slip, I developed some of the relationships that I did with people in my life that they refused to give up on me. Like those bastards kept calling me, man. They wouldn't just let me be. But
oh no, you got good people in your life. What bastards?
yeah, yeah, sons of bitches. What are they thinking, man?
Well, I've been diagnosed with ADHD, and the VA put me on a low dose of Adderall, and so I have the kind of exact opposite kind of thing, because my Adderall, it's either you take it twice a day or you take it as needed. It's just a straightforward, not a time release pill. And what will pop up in my head every so often now is you can do that. You're not taking more than you're supposed to. You're taking this as needed. You could probably just have a drink, buddy.
That's how it starts, man.
Well, see, my thing was I was never ever a one and done guy, except for maybe when I was a kid and I was being sneaky. My dad used to keep a bottle of Jim Beam by his bed. And I'd go, and I'd go sneak a plug. That started when I was like 12,
Yeah.
But then when high school started, I was an athlete, but I was also I wasn't in the cool group and I wasn't in the full blown nerds either. So I floated. So I'd go to whatever party I wanted to that weekend. And man, I started drinking about my sophomore year. And then, then I joined the Marines right out of high school. And then I was in the infantry. And when you're not doing anything in the infantry, you're hammered and being reckless, because this is what you did, And then when I got out, the party didn't end. I moved out to Tempe, Arizona with a bunch of guys from my unit, and we just rocked and rolled. That's actually how I met Paul. Paul was a bar back working at the bar with a couple of the guys I served with. So, we all went. But yeah, no, I'm sorry, I had a moment, but that's been my
you're good, man.
That's been my new thing. It's like, and I wouldn't even say it's prevalent. It's just one of those creeping like every so often kind of things. It's like, hey, remember me? You want to open that door back up, champ?
Yeah.
But I have I have my stepkids, I have my children, I have my wife, and I'm like, man, if you open that back up, you're not going to be daddy, stepdaddy, husband anymore. You're just not, because Britt won't stand for that shit. I know that for 100. She deals with me enough as it is. If I was like shit wrecked hammered all the time, my ass would be on the road.
Right. Yeah. That's kind of the deal, man, is that we end up meeting these people in our lives and developing this life for ourselves. And it's almost like we have this thing that drives us to want to destroy something beautiful. I don't know what it is about it, but it seems like all addicts and alcoholics have that one thing in common. Like too much success, often leads to failure, and it's just because we've been comfortable there for so long, I mean, it's a lot easier to pick up the pieces than it is to continue building,
right. There's something comforting about the chaos.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, it's everything's good and great, but it's like, I don't want to say you're bored, but it's kind of like you're bored. Like you're missing the, you're just, all right, what's gonna happen today? And it's kind of like it's like an anxiety response, to where you miss that thrill of being, being bad.
Yeah.
You miss that living in sin.
You know that song, 9 Inch Nails, Every Day is Exactly the Same? Like we get into these mundane, cycles. And, there's nothing wrong with, predictability. If nothing else, structure in our day is a good thing. That's a welcome respite from what we've had. But it often kind of wears on us a little bit. Man, I spent the majority of my life living on a razor's edge. You were in the military. I can't imagine. I mean, dude, I was never in the military, so I can't really identify with that, but I'm sure we can identify in some of the feelings we had growing up, running around in the shooting galleries and dope houses, places getting shot up and people kicking in doors and this and that. And it's, it was just a part of life. And then now it's like, dude, I got a couple dogs, like I got my daughter. I get like really bummed out if I forget to mow, like once a week, like, that bugs me.
I planted 2 trees in the backyard recently, so feeling mighty fancy. Feeling mighty fancy,
man.
High stepping over there, Jake.
Oh yeah. I mean, it'll be I got a tangerine tree and an apricot tree. Yeah, I'm looking to fancy up the gravel backyard out here in Santan Valley.
Nice, man. Stuff. You're down in Texas, right?
No, I live in Arizona now.
Arizona? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, man, I was a trainer out in Georgetown, Texas before I moved out here. I was at their big gym, called the House of Gains.
Nice.
I still rep that place. I love it. That was. I spent more time at that gym than I did where I was living.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. No, I basically lived there, man. I loved it.
Being. See,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead, bud.
I was a personal trainer there, and I'm a bodybuilding coach. I mean, I still do that online, but I don't do it like with that like crazy amount of personal interaction that I had. And that was pretty rad, especially coming up from it. I had ate and drank myself 2 hours over. I was over 315. I was like, you could roll me down a hill standing up. I'm only 5'8" and a half. I got to throw that half in there. It's very important. I mean, I was a ball of gross and unhealthy, and I hated myself. But then, I part of my recovery was getting deep back into fitness. Like I said, I was an athlete my whole life pretty much. And then, was a Marine Corps, and then I just let it all go to waste. And then I got into bodybuilding, man. And that's another thing I say is like bodybuilding saved my life. Like just finding that discipline to focus everything in. Sorry, my bride walked in.
You're good, man. I'm actually trying to get on the path of fitness myself. I've never been in shape, bro. Like I'm either strung. I've always ever been strung out or like chubby, like I put down the spoon. I put down the spoon and picked up the fork, I am that guy, but, I'm doing keto again. So trying that out, doing some light workouts and stuff. So we'll see where it goes. But, I enjoy, watching your post and seeing some of the stuff that you talk about, man, because that keeps me accountable to a certain degree. If nothing else, it makes me feel guilty as shit for being a fat shit. But
well, I mean, dude, I'm nowhere near in shape like I'd like to be, but that it is what it is. I'm growing too, which is nice.
Right. Cultivating
mass, but for real.
Right.
But I don't ever mean to like, my posts are never to make anybody feel bad necessarily. It's more of, I try and raise awareness. Like I put one up on my story today, and it was when you like your friends' progress pictures that week when they look exactly the same, And it's
That's awesome.
it's, and what I found in the fitness industry, especially in the bodybuilding side of things, is there is a lot of just shitty, toxic people in that space because they love the smell of their own farts. There's no nice way of saying it. It's, my way or the highway. I'm a better coach than that guy. Blah, blah, blah. Like, the only thing I've ever said was, I don't agree with that person's philosophy. That's as far as I try and go. Like, if I have a problem with somebody, I'm not going to put it out there like that. Like, I'll talk to my wife about it. She's heard me say, my fucker about folks all the time. But, it's, how I look at it as a fitness professional, it's not my job to talk shit about who you're working with or why. It's, if you want my opinion, ask me, but I'm not going to dog on the person you're working with. I'm going to tell you to ask them about it. Here's my opinion on it. But ask them why things are like this, and there's so many people that'll just be straight up like, I'm better than this dude because his dick's a millimeter smaller than mine. It's basically what it is. And
Right.
I can't stand that shit. I'm just
Well, no, you have a healthy way of approaching it, man. And I envy that because I have a temper, man. I have a real bad anger problem, and disrespect is one of those things that I just don't know how to drop. I like let it slide, so I applaud you, man. Cause that takes some, presence of mind to be able to approach it that way.
That's taken me years. But like, it's, if you come and attack me directly, I'll let you know where and why you're fucking up. Because I mean, I've got a temper too. I've got, but when it comes to most things, generally like, they're in my space, but they're not my problem. That's how I have to look at it. Like, yeah, we're doing the same thing, but who gives a shit at the end of the day? My clients are happy and healthy. Good, great, grand, and wonderful, man. Like, do you? Just understand I disagree with you, but if people are paying you money for that, then make your paper, brother. There's plenty of food on the table. Pull your chair. And that's, I think there's a lot of that generally in any industry, really. But it's taken me a lot of deep self-reflection. Like, why am I upset with this dude? Is it real? And 99% of the time, it's not real. And it's like I do a lot of meditating before bed, and like, I like sitting in silence and just thinking whenever I can do that, which is hardly ever now. But whenever I can pull away and take 5, 10, maybe 15 minutes, and I can just stop and I can be like, why is this bothering you? And I can stop and think and focus on it. I can get pissed and I can sort it out and let it go. A lot easier than, like, it's like a stoic way of thinking. It's, here's my anger, but why is my anger? And then if it's worth acting on, that's after you take your period of self-reflection. And then, man, 99% of the time, it's just not worth acting on. You just got to go, okay. Then
That's awesome, man. That's that mindfulness, right? Mindfulness meditation. Is that what you're talking about? Yeah. That stuff is
mindfulness.
It's potent.
And then I love Marcus Aurelius. I mean, was he a good dad? No. Commodus was a dog shit emperor. But but when it comes to like his actual philosophy of things and how he approached stuff in his own personal life, it's applicable today. And so, I mean, I'm a big fan of stopping. I never used to be. So I'm a very impulsive human. But as much as I can, I try and stop and think now. In my advanced age of 32, I try and stop and kind of take myself out of it for a second and be like, okay, let's just say you go in this direction. What are the possible outcomes? I don't like most of those. What about this one? Nothing changes. Okay.
Right. Totally.
You know, so I'm not here to preach at you, but that's how I roll, man. It's been pretty good to me.
Good stuff, man. Good information. Yeah. You know,
I try not to hold too many grudges or regrets. There's things I'll never do, and there's people I'll never talk to again. But that doesn't mean like I got to be like dwelling on it all the time.
that shit's toxic anyway, man. Like any of that stuff that we carry around with us on the day to day, you know, I know you didn't go the recovery route, but it sounds like you figured it out on your own, which is a hell of a deal. But like, I had to be told that stuff. This is something I had to be taught, you know, I had to be taught that it's not cool to be pissed off at that chick in 6th grade, you know, at the age of 32, yes. Like, like that's not okay. You got to let that shit go. Man. So
there'll always be those times where you're just sitting there and you'll be doing something. You're like, you remember 2nd grade? And you're like, oh,
motherfucker. Yeah, man. It's always right before I go to sleep too. Like right when I'm about to drift off, like one of those things, like just ping, it just hits me right in the head. I'm like, oh God, that did happen, didn't it? Then I'm mad for the next couple minutes.
I've been doing crypto trading more now. Just I like it. It's fun.
Yeah.
And it's, it's kind of like gambling because it is.
Yeah, it really is.
But it really is. But I was sitting there and I was thinking about it and I was like, do you remember in 5th grade when you kept calling everybody a dildo and then Brett Johnson said, you don't even know what that is? And then you didn't. Oh.
Damn it.
Oh, every damn day. Got to be reminded of something stupid I did.
That's awesome.
Well, hey, brother. I know you got to get to sleep. You got an early morning coming up. Why don't you plug your show? Tell folks where they can find you.
So, at clean_podcast. It's the Clean Libertarian podcast. That's where I'm at on Twitter. You can catch me on all the podcast catchers. Typically my episodes range anywhere from highlighting stories of recovery, talking about different, aspects of the war on drugs and, my personal opinions on that. And then also talking about things within the libertarian circle, not necessarily limited to the party itself, but, along those lines. And so kind of getting my groove with it, somewhat. I think I'm on episode 30 something. I don't know, but you can also find me on YouTube, the Clean Libertarian podcast, and we have one video up. Just put that up, so it's 2021. Might as well join the rest of the world and get on one of the most sought after platforms. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I look forward to talking to you more in the future. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. Thank you for listening to the Sober Swole podcast. Follow Drew on Twitter at LibertyDrew84 and at clean_podcast, also on Twitter. And check him out on every available podcasting platform. Good night, everybody.
Hey! It's Warhorse! Do you want your workouts to look like this? Or do you want your workouts to slay? When Warhorse picks his pre-workout, he wants it to slay! If you want 2nd place, go with somebody else. If you want to be a champion, go with Royalty Nutrition.
All right. Did Drew bounce?
No, I'm here.
Okay, cool, man. Well, hey, thank you.